Hi, boys and girls. I'm your Peter Pan storyteller. When you hear this sound, turn the page. SilverHawks, The Origin, Part 2. The booster rocket was on its pad, but the Mirage was not yet ready.
Blast off in 30 minutes and counting. Mirage in position, please.
Mission Control repeated.
Mirage in position, please.
The Copper Kid whistled urgently at Bluegrass.
Yeah, I know, kid.
He was fussing with the autopilot.
Give me just one more darn minute here and I'll have it fixed. Hand me my axe, will you?
Steelheart brought his high-tech guitar.
Looking for this, cowboy?
Thank you, ma'am.
Quicksilver hurried up with Steel Will.
Hey, what's going on? The Mirage should be on board now.
Just one more wire, Quicksilver, old buddy. Right here.
You tampering with that autopilot, Tex?
Bluegrass is the name. Music's the game.
He pointed.
This little button here starts the rhythm. This little button adds the bass. And this little button is going to fly the Mirage while I'm adding a few sounds. And that's Hot Licks. Say howdy to the folks.
As the autopilot gave off musical riffs, Quicksilver cut in.
Come on, stop fooling around. We're late.
Bluegrass chuckled.
Almost human, ain't he?
Time to get your act and your axe in the plane, Jack. I'll hook this thing back up.
Quicksilver said.
Here, let me help you with that. It must weigh a ton.
Heck, Lieutenant, it'd take more than a ton to phase my sis.
Between them, Steelheart and Steel Will soon had Hot Licks back in the plane, and the Mirage itself in position atop the booster rocket. In minutes, they were blasting off for the galaxy of Limbo. The SilverHawks nestled in their pods as the expedition roared skyward. Bluegrass fed course data into the control.
090. Trajectory ZKKB. Velocity 11 Mega4. Limbo, here we come.
Beyond Earth's atmosphere, Bluegrass prepared for the final propulsion maneuver.
Booster jettison -5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Jettison!
He pulled a lever, and the booster fell away in a burst of flame. The Mirage was now racing through space toward the galaxy of Limbo. Bluegrass reached for his guitar and switched on the rhythm unit.
Talk to me, Hot Licks. You give me a little rhythm, I'll give you a lot of blues.
After light years of travel through the starry universe, the Voyagers glimpsed a distant space station. It was perched on a rocky asteroid and topped by the grim steel likeness of a hawk. Quicksilver spoke to his teammates.
That must be it. Hawk Haven, home for the next few centuries.
The Copper Kid whistled.
Well, sis, I guess the cowboy gave us a pretty good ride.
Just so long as he sits out a set to land this thing.
Bluegrass announced.
90 seconds to breakfast. Would you care to stretch your wings, SilverHawks?
They lowered their visors and zipped out of their pods in formation. Massive steel doors opened to admit them to the space station. The SilverHawks flew in, followed by the Mirage, and found themselves in a vast hangar. Stargazer's voice boomed from a loudspeaker.
I'd like to welcome you to Hawkhaven, SilverHawks.
They looked around as he added.
Now you enter the door in the north wall.
Copper Kid pointed the way. An elevator was waiting. They boarded it and were whisked up to the station's command center. The vast room seemed empty. They looked around uncertainly, and Quicksilver asked,
Is that you, Commander Stargazer?
Sliding doors opened in a central control console. Entering, they found themselves facing another door labeled Commander Stargazer, Private.
Well, come in.
They did so. The tough-looking station boss greeted them.
You're Quicksilver, right?
Yes, sir, that's right.
Oh, canny sir stuff, Lieutenant. We're going to be working together too closely for all that.
Right. Let me introduce...
No offense, Quicksilver, but let's make the intro short. You're Steelheart, right? And you must be your little brother Steel Will, right?
You got it.
Put it there, Commander.
Forget it, I've read your file. Yes, you're the Copper Kid.
The answer was a whistle.
From the planet of the mimes, huh? Never been there myself.
Stargazer turned.
Colonel Bluegrass, right?
Mm-hmm.
Young for a colonel.
Oh, shucks. Just naturally talented, Commander.
Stargazer looked them over.
So, you're the latest models, huh?
His telescopic eye examined them closely.
Oh, pretty slick. Been promising myself a trip back to Chicago. Get refitted, couple of laughs with the old crowd.
He sighed regretfully.
But that blasted Monstar's put an end to all that.
Yes, what's the current status, Commander?
Asked Quicksilver.
Well, here's the situation.
Stargazer jabbed a desk button. Bookshelves slid back to reveal a space monitor screen.
That planet's the Brimstar.
He explained.
And right at the bottom of that star-shaped crater is the mob's headquarters, Monstar's fortress. That darn thing's just about indestructible.
At that very moment, a green-skinned, worm-like alien was arriving at the gang stronghold by space taxi.
Boss, it's me. Yes, man. Come in, yes, man. They're here, boss. The SilverHawks are here.
Monstar chuckled.
Then we must welcome them, yes, man. Right? Yes, boss. Certainly, boss. Anything you say, boss.
Yes, man. The transformation chamber.
Yes, boss.
As the gang leader ascended a throne-like enclosure, Yes-Man scurried toward the fortress's control panel. He threw a lever, and rocket motors flamed, causing the entire Brimstar to turn. Yes-Man gauged the turn so that the red-hot rays of the Moonstar blazed down directly through the crater and fell with burning brilliance on his hideous master.
Moonstar of Limbo,
the gang leader chanted.
Give me the might, the muscle, the menace of Moonstar!
In moments, the transformation was complete. Monstar had once more become an armored super demon, the terror of the galaxy. His star-shaped eye beamed a ray of power at Skyrunner, turning the space squid into a fiery spacecraft. Monstar climbed aboard.
All the boys together, yes, man. Prepare all the weapons and load up the space limos. We'll make a direct attack on Hawkhaven.
Meanwhile, a fierce-looking hawk streaked in through the window of Stargazer's office.
Take cover!
Cried Quicksilver, but the bird alighted on Stargazer's wrist.
Relax, guys. Meet Tallyhawk.
They eyed it cautiously.
That's some bird, Commander. A robot?
No, sir. He's partly metal, partly real. Just like you guys.
Does he do anything else besides looking mean enough to chew nails off a fence?
Said Bluegrass. Tallyhawk screamed, and his eye flashed a picture on the monitor screen. It showed Monstar approaching on Skyrunner.
Does that answer your question? He's a spy satellite, scout, interceptor. You control him with this panel.
The commander ripped a control device from his arm and tossed it to Quicksilver.
You'd better learn it fast, because it looks like we got company.
Sure enough, the mob was closing in, led by Monstar. With him, in their 3 space limos and armed to the teeth, was his whole fearsome gang. Monstar fired a burst from his laser lance, which exploded against the dome of Hawkhaven. Then he roared with maniacal laughter.
Come on and fight, Yellow Hawks!
The enemy bore down on Hawkhaven. Monstar led them aboard Skyrunner. With him were the rest of the gang in their battle limos. Melodia rode one called the Limbo Limo, with Yes-Man at the wheel, and Buzzsaw on the running board. Molecular was in another limo called the Roadstar, driven by Mumbo Jumbo. Windjammer rode the Zulu, with hardware driving. The attack was underway. Buzzsaw fired Sawdust at the Hawk's head. Quicksilver launched Tallyhawk from inside the station. Its metal wings sliced through the spinning disc. Buzzsaw fired one at the bird, but it shattered this with its beak.
Call him back. The green button.
Quicksilver obeyed the commander's order, and Tallyhawk returned to Hawk Haven. Quicksilver held out his wrist for the bird and said,
Looks like we're going to see some action. Ready to fly, Colonel?
Ready as a rooster in a hen house.
Then, let's go.
Stargazer growled.
Want to leave that toy behind, Colonel Bluegrass?
You ever seen a toy like this?
Bluegrass aimed his guitar at the laser-proof dome and twanged some chords. The laser pulses crashed and exploded in an outburst of musical fireworks.
What was that, Sheriff?
Gasped Steelheart
E-flat, lady. E-flat major.
as they prepared to engage the enemy. The Zoomer screamed in toward Hawk Haven. Windjammer brandished his tuning fork.
Galactic storms! Destroy the SilverHawks!
Lightning bolts sizzled and flashed at the space station. The enemy fire was already melting holes in its outer surface. Suddenly, Hawk Haven's steel doors opened, and the Mirage zoomed out. Monstar greeted it with a thunderbolt from his laser lance, but the Mirage rocketed upward and dodged the fiery missile. Yes Man drove his space limo up close to the Skyrunner and shouted at Monstar.
You did it, boss! You did it! They're running!
The gang leader snarled.
Don't be too sure, Yes Man. Yes, boss. No, boss.
Now, boys and girls, turn the recording over.
The attack continued as the mob blasted Hawk Haven with laser fire, thunderbolts, and force fields. Bluegrass signaled the SilverHawks.
Prepare to launch!
One by one, they shot out of their pods.
Release! Release! Release!
Visors down, they streaked toward the enemy in line abreast.
Wing it!
Ordered Quicksilver, and they spread their wings.
Cluster!
They clasped hands in circle formation. Tallyhawk joined them with a fierce scream as they zoomed toward Monstar. Suddenly, their shoulder lasers opened fire. The beam smashed into Monstar, sending him and the Skyrunner reeling back. With a roar, he fired his laser lance at the oncoming SilverHawks.
Scatter!
Cried Quicksilver. Tallyhawk's eyes shot fiery beams at Monstar. The blast knocked him out of Skyrunner and sent him cartwheeling through space. Skyrunner climbed, breathing fire. At the same time, Quicksilver slowed, using his wings as air brakes, and blasted Monstar with his shoulder lasers. The supercriminal dodged by a thrust from his elbow jets. Meanwhile, Tallyhawk and the Skyrunner were charging at each other in a head-on duel of firepower. They collided with a brilliant explosion, then rebounded and tumbled out of control, billowing smoke. Steelheart and Steel Will were attacking the Roadstar. Under the shock of their laser beams, Mumbo Jumbo and Molecular were thrown out as the limo rocked and veered away. Copper Kid blasted the Zoomer. It shot upward, but the Kid pursued it and fired again. Windjammer and Hardware were dumped from their seats. As the battle raged, Melodia and Yes Man pursued the Mirage.
Faster, Yes Man! Faster! We'll give them the big crescendo!
Yes, Melodia. Certainly, Melodia.
Gradually, they closed in on the super fighter. Melodia swung her synthesizer keyboard into firing position.
They will never forget this concert!
She shrieked with wild laughter as the Mirage rocked under the impact of her deadly music. Bluegrass gritted.
You want to jam, lady? We'll jam.
He switched on the ship's autopilot.
Let's join the party, Hot Licks.
Just then, the Mirage shook from another blast of Melodia's laser notes. Bluegrass pulled a lever, and the hot seat separated from its mother ship.
You did it, Melodia. He's bailing out.
Again she shrieked with laughter.
We tuned them out!
Another burst of laser notes struck the super fighter. Bluegrass switched on the mirage effect.
Now you see it. Now you don't.
The mirage shimmered and disappeared.
You got it, Melodia. Blasted it right out of the sky.
Now for the pilot, yes, man!
Yes, Melodia. Whatever you say. Yes, yes.
The Limbo Limo circled around an asteroid and climbed to attack the hot seat. But Bluegrass did his own circling maneuver and came at his attacker head-on.
What a session!
He gloated. Melodia aimed her synthesizer and sounded off a jangling blast of laser notes.
You are out of tune, lady,
said Bluegrass. He fired back with his guitar. The laser music clashed and exploded in violent discord. The Limbo Limo reeled from the shockwave and plunged downward. Bluegrass thumbed up a goodbye.
Well, that's the end of that song.
One after another, the mob's 3 limos crash-landed on Hawkhaven. Steelheart, Steel Will, and the Copper Kid followed in hot pursuit. Buzzsaw had bounced clear of the Limbo Limo. He shot a saw blade up at Bluegrass. The spinning disc sliced through the metal skin of the hot seat, but Bluegrass was unharmed. He slammed back a sizzling chord from his guitar. The laser beam hit Buzzsaw
And totally stunned him.
Looks like the party's over,
chuckled Bluegrass. Meanwhile, the Skyrunner was tumbling toward Hawkhaven. Only a spurt of its jets prevented a crash. Tallyhawk 2 pulled out of its plunge in the nick of time. Beams of fire shot from its eyes and struck sparks from Skyrunner's armor. The Copper Kid had somersaulted upright on Hawkhaven, just in time to face a deadly attack by Windjammer. The wild-eyed crook slammed down his tuning fork, vibing out lightning and thunder. The kid shot back a blast from his arm laser that sent Windjammer reeling off balance. At that moment, Quicksilver was chasing Monstar, who suddenly wheeled about. The light star flashed from his eye and rocketed toward Quicksilver. The Copper Kid whistled a warning. Quicksilver reacted fast, spinning, diving, twisting, turning, but the light star followed every move. The super crook roared with laughter.
No one escapes Monstar!
Mumbo Jumbo had jumped free when the Roadstar crashed. Now he turned to face Steelheart, mumbling and bellowing in fury. She mocked him with a bullfighter's pose.
Whatever you say.
With a roar of rage, he charged at her, but she grabbed his horns and vaulted onto his back. Steel Will somersaulted up behind her.
Don't mean to horn in on your axis, but maybe we should give him the old heave-ho.
Let's do it.
They leaped down and grabbed the bull-like crook by the legs, then swung him back and forth.
Heave!
Ho!
They flung him into space and slapped hands.
All right, cousins.
Watch your tail, Hotshot.
Steelheart called back as Bluegrass streaked past. The Limbo Limo was close behind. Bluegrass did a quick roll and dive, almost grazing the space station. Yes Man wasn't that good a pilot, and scraped the limo to a pancake halt. Steelheart lifted its rear end and dumped out Melodia and Yes Man. Melodia tried to blast her with laser notes, but Steel Will swept his sister out of the way. Bluegrass circled and fired at Melodia. She dived for cover behind the Limbo Limo, but his cord smashed into the spacecraft, rolling it over. Meanwhile, Windjammer vibed another blaze of lightning at the Copper Kid. The kid whipped out 2 force-field frisbees and hurled them at Windjammer. He screeched and staggered back, stunned by their impact. The Frisbees returned to their master, who was about to hurl them again, but the crook panicked.
Lightning! Take Windhammer!
A flash of lightning streaked down, wrapped itself around Windjammer, and pulled him up into the sky. Copper Kid didn't see Molecular approaching behind him, disguised as Bluegrass.
Give me a hand, kid.
Luckily, the real Bluegrass was watching.
Now that ain't playing fair.
He whirled his lariat, dropped it neatly over the crook's neck, and whisked him up into the air. But the master of disguise changed into a cloud of vapor and disappeared. The Copper Kid whistled thanks and gave a thumbs up. Quicksilver was still diving, twisting, and turning, pursued by the Light Star and Monstar. Quicksilver pressed a button in the side of one knuckle, and a cloud of dense, fogging smoke billowed out behind him. Monstar and his fireball were soon lost in the darkness. The gang leader roared in baffled fury.
One star will find you. You cannot hide.
Quicksilver glided down to join his teammates. They all fired their weapons at the enemy. Bluegrass smashed cords into the smoke. Copper Kid hurled his frisbees, and the twins fired their lasers.
Tally Hawk!
Shouted Quicksilver, and a hawk scream answered. The lieutenant thumbed his control device. Tallyhawk swooped down, firing beams from his eyes into the smoke, then alighted on Quicksilver's wrist. By now, Monstar was in full retreat aboard Skyrunner.
Back to Brimstar!
As the SilverHawks watched, the Super Crook and his mob disappeared in the distance. Bluegrass looked at Quicksilver.
Hot pursuit?
Save it. We'll get to know the territory first.
All right, you're the boss.
Heck, Lieutenant, I was just getting warmed up,
said Steelwill.
Well, little Will, tomorrow's another day. Maybe we'll see some real action.
Roll on tomorrow.
Bluegrass punched a button on Hot Seat to reverse the mirage effect, then spoke to the autopilot.
Bring her on down, Hot Licks, and give me a little something on the way.
As bass and drum rhythms sounded to back up the Colonel's guitar, the mothership flew down and landed nearby. The SilverHawks turned as Commander Stargazer approached sardonically.
Nice try, SilverHawks.
Nice try,
retorted Steelheart.
That's a hard man.
Oh, you're all heart, Commander.
He's right,
said Quicksilver.
Monstar and his mob are still loose, and the universe won't be safe until we get them back behind bars.
Tallyhawk screamed and winged off as Stargazer laughed.
You've got your work cut out for you.
He saluted.
Welcome to Limbo, SilverHawks.